evening, ladies and gentlemen. So can we quieten down so we can start and proceed? So welcome to hashtag 1000 Connections event for young professionals. So before we settle into our conversations tonight, there are house rules. Hint, hint, house rules. So for the smokers, this is a smoking area. This is a non-smoking house, right? So if you would like to smoke, you can go outside, and the restrooms are to the left, right? Before we settle in, I would like to bring on Kensani Nobanda, who is our distinguished guest, who will give us a few words before we kick off and welcome us into why we are here and talk about why we are here. So Kensani Nobanda is the Group Executive Marketing and Corporate Affairs at Nedbank Group. Thank you.
Is this working? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good evening, everyone. I really would love to welcome you today. It's actually, so we've been having a couple of these, but it's actually my first time attending one. I've been watching them on social media and thinking, maybe one day my team will invite me. So I finally made it, because unfortunately I'm no longer a young professional. I won't reveal how long I've been working in marketing.
But you have experience.
But I really want to say thank you for coming. The reason Nedbank does this, right, is it's really based on our purpose of using our financial expertise to do good. So what does that mean in a very deliberate manner? What it means is we as a bank believe that when you manage your money well, it will have a positive impact on your family, on your own life, on society. So when we do events like this, we do it because we want people from a very young age to already start to know how to manage their money better, because in the long term, it is the best thing for you. I wish when I was your age that I had been taught that. I would have stopped getting accounts at, let me not say. And I always believe with these things, it's about balance, right? How you spend your money. Yes, absolutely, you must be able to spoil yourself, but you also have to think in the long term. There's some very scary statistics. If I tell you that 2 out of 3 South Africans spend more than they earn, as you sit here, you should start thinking about that and how you can actually, through the panel, through the Nedbank advisors, think about how to manage your money better. Mm-hmm. So I hope you have a fantastic time this evening. I'm sure I will, and you know what? You can never stop learning about how to manage your money better.
Absolutely.
So I'm looking forward to the conversations. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction, Kensani. So I am Aurelia Hlopsile Ngumalo, and welcome to the hashtag 1000 Connections with Nedbank for young professionals. So I have already given some of the house rules. The other one is, sometimes when people say, please keep calm, that's cue for don't keep calm. But if there's an emergency, we advise you to please keep calm, and we exit in an orderly manner. If there's an emergency, keep calm, and we exit this way in an orderly manner, where then there'll be an assembly point in the event of an emergency. So we've got lots to offer today, lots of conversations, lots of food as well. And we've also got online guests that we would like to welcome, who can grab their snacks and their drinks at home and join us on the online conversation as well. So as we are in the social media sharing, our hashtags are hashtag Nedbank Private Clients and tagging at Nedbank. So we are obviously brought here by Nedbank, and this event for young professionals is to talk about property as young professionals. Ask all your questions, note everything down once we've done the presentations from our panelists, and note questions that you would like to know. So maybe there are people, as Kensani had spoken about, there are people that are not first-time buyers, but there are things that you can learn after the fact, and you can now learn from experience, and you're not starting afresh or starting over, but you're starting with experience, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what we're here for. And I would like to introduce Tato. So Tato Mabote, who is a home loan specialist at Nedbank since 2016, previously with NCC as team leader. He has a NQ F5 banking advice qualification, RE1 representative, and NQ F5 in property finance. Welcome to Tato, please, and tell us a little bit about why you're here and what you want to share with us today.
All right, thanks Aurelia. Good evening, everyone. So the reason I'm here is to mainly speak about what we can do for young professionals in the home loan side of things. Look, home loan, it's quite an investment, and which is something that young professionals are not aware of. And we at Nedbank, we offer a lot in terms of first-time home buyers. We offer you 105% to the loan value of the property that you're purchasing, meaning that you are able to use that 5% for whatever use that you want to use it for, be it to furnish your house, to pay for transfer costs. And I'm here to share a bit about the process, obviously, of getting a home loan as a first-time buyer and also as a young professional. And also to share things like attorney discounts. And yeah, that's basically about it. I mean, there's quite a lot, obviously, to unpack regarding home loan sales and a journey for young professionals when they start to buy property. So I'm here, obviously, to answer such questions and also share insights from the Nedbank home loan side of things. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Tato. We also have Nedbank advisors here as well, where you can then find out about joining Nedbank Private Clients as well, where you can then obviously have the benefit of sharing this knowledge that Tato is going to advance on later in the evening. And I'd also now like to introduce Mahlulela Matia, a young professional like ourselves. So you boast 13 years of experience across 3 different industries. You have stretched yourself in terms of farming and property investment and related activities. Your passion for property investment is fueled by the fact that land is the only sure investment that does not depreciate, and property, well maintained, will always appreciate over time. Tell us more.
Thanks a lot, Aurelia. Good afternoon all. So my name is Mahluleli Matia.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm just sharing obviously from a young professional's perspective. I have been obviously, as Aurelia has introduced myself, I've been within 3 different industries, and obviously as a young person, I believe I acquired my first property at a relatively young age. And I strongly believe that there is a lot of value in acquiring a property as opposed to renting. I will obviously maybe share a little bit more as we go on. I do also rental property particularly, but I think some of the benefits that I've reaped over time with my beautiful wife there in the audience, from obviously property rental and being able to obviously just acquire, say maybe the first property was just leveraging off the re-advance facility that sometimes you may get with the home loan, and being able to get that cash injection that I may have needed to even diversify into obviously other activities that I'm involved in from an investment perspective. Yeah, thanks.
So you're going to teach us about diversifying.
Hopefully.
And stretching the home loan from Tato.
You know what I'm saying?
Stretching
utilizing it.
Utilizing it. Thank you so much. Yeah. Next, we have a property specialist, Ujabulile Mazibuko, who in 2022, she acquired her PPRE qualification and became a full status agent, and has now fleshed out on her own team of agents working under her guidance. Jabu is passionate about educating South Africans about the opportunities available within the real estate industry, and about them teaching them how they can build equity and create wealth through property.
Thank you so much, guys. So I am a property practitioner, and I'm really here to sort of advise from a real estate agent perspective, just sort of guiding you in terms of the buying process, things to avoid. It's obviously a very daunting process, so I'm going to guide in terms of just, how it is, the steps on acquiring your first property.
I'm really keen because, as a young professional,
Yes.
women,
Yes.
I like aesthetics. I like how pretty the house is. Do I look at the house first or do I look at the finances first?
No, the finances first, girl.
Do I go?
Please, girl.
Do I go on the app and try figure out how much I actually qualify for, or do I go on the property app and say, this is the dream?
The financial app first. The financial app first, definitely. Yeah.
So not the house first.
No, babe, no.
And then I can't build my way up.
No, step by step. No,
Okay.
the finances first.
Ish. And then,
And then you'll get there, girl. It's a process. I think that's the thing about property. Owning property, it's really like a long-term game. I think that's
Yeah.
what people need to understand.
yes,
So,
but-
yeah.
So I don't buy the pretty house. I buy the house I can afford to then renovate.
Yes, you buy the house that makes sense financially first, babe. That's where you...
But then Tato's going to tell us how we can stretch.
Yeah, then
Okay.
Tato will get you there to that
Okay.
house that you want. Yes.
Okay, I'm happy with that. So this is going to be very conversational. I'm going to ask a few questions. You guys can also jot down your questions that you would like to ask. That's why I asked the right question first. Listen, we are in this house right now. Do you know that this house is actually by young professionals, this house, right? But I want to know, did they look at the pretty house first, or did they go and look what they qualify for first? Niti, there's a calculator that says this is what you so that's what I would like to know. So take us through that process, Tato. What should the first thing, your first property as a young professional, you've been working, and what's the first thing you should do? Because obviously I've got the wrong advice because I'm looking at a pretty house in Bryanston.
Okay, so first things first, I would say identify what you want to do with the property. That's the
Okay.
first thing. You want to rent it out or you want to stay in it?
Okay.
So obviously, if you're staying in it, you're looking at the period that you're looking to stay in that particular house, because you can't stay in it for the full term of the bond.
Yes.
So you need to look at the area, how well it's going to pick up, and should come a time for you to sell, how much you're going to make from it.
Okay.
Yeah, and then after that, identifying all of that, then you come and speak to Tato. You say, Tato, I'm looking at this house, it's 1 million rand. I earn X amount. So I sit you down, we have a conversation. I look at your bank statements, I look at your pay slip, and then I can tell you if you're realistically enough that, you know what, you can afford it or not. And
Okay.
obviously, governed by the laws of the bank and ethics, so I can't really mislead you now and say
Yes.
you can afford 1 million if you can't. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I think even with that, just top of my head as well, just as you're talking, so if you then get there and you say, okay, well, you can afford 1 million, and I'm like, okay, the one that I'm looking at, let's say it's for a home, it's my first home and all of that, and I'm like, I want to get to a point where I can afford a house that's 1.5.
Yeah.
Do we then go into a goals,
Yeah.
process
Yeah.
or assessment where we say, okay, for you to get to this point, and how do you build up for you to have the affordability of where you want to stay or where you want to buy the property?
Yeah. So we call it, we hold your hand
Okay,
throughout the process.
thank you.
So obviously, I'm going to look at, say you come to me, and obviously as a young professional, fresh out of varsity, company snatched you up, you just bought your first car,
Yeah.
to get around, obviously. And you actually can't qualify for the 1.5, but you qualify for the 1 million. I will tell you that, you know what, let's look at, pausing on the car repayments. Maybe you don't need that account. You can close it. This is where the banking advice comes in, because I'm going to help you so that in 5 years or 3 years' time, you can be able to put an offer for that house.
Yes.
But if, obviously, in a case that you want to move out, you want a house for X amount, but eventually you want that, it's possible, because you can be able to move with the subject to sale of the one that you first bought, instead of just holding back, because you never know what will happen afterwards.
Yeah.
So rather, buy your first home and make sure that you conduct your accounts well, and you keep your affairs with the credit bureau in order. And then after that, 5 years from then, or 3, even 2, depending on increases, promotion, you'd be good for that 1.5.
Yeah, so with that, with what you just said, to then go to Mahluleli. So now I've lived in this house for 3 years.
Yeah.
It's now diversifying. So now I don't want to sell it because
Yeah.
I want to now pay off the bond with the money that I make from the house. So that's diversification, right?
I think, I suppose, going to one of the initial statements that I think Tato made, very important to define at onset the purpose of the property that you're buying, right? Is it going to be residential property that you are going to make use of? Is it something that you would want to maybe, sublease, or you want to totally rent it out? I think that becomes very important, right? Because then it almost informs your game plan. So maybe just to give an example, at onset, I knew that I think similarly with a lot of young professionals, you don't necessarily have a lot of capital to get into, business, or even whether it's a rental property business or any other different business. You don't necessarily have capital at onset. But I realized the potential of being able to leverage off a property and a property facility. So going in, the first house that we bought a house that had an additional dwelling, that had a proper cottage that was 2-bedroom, living room, that had a
kitchenette.
Yeah, kitchen and all that, and proper setup, and 2 different entrances. Rented it out. And gave it a little while, and you mentioned that it's you're going into it for the long haul. Property is not like any other business that you will just cash in tomorrow. It doesn't work that way. You have to give it at least maybe 5 years, paid up that home loan for a couple of years, then revisited the bank and said, like, look, may I please, access the funds that I've already paid into this, facility, and then now I had the access to, a lump sum that I would not necessarily had access to, in ordinary course of business, additional to what you was mentioning, your bonus payments and whatever else that you're saving up on the side. Then you're able to now maybe look at acquiring another property, decent property for that amount, right? Maybe say 500,000. Or delve into another different business, like in our case, delve into farming. But I think that's how you can almost leverage off a home loan. But it's a long haul type of exercise. It's not like just next year you just then get it up.
Absolutely. I mean, even so, I want to be almost as practical as possible because, again, we have you guys because you guys have already walked the walk, right? And as a young professional, fresh out of varsity, we've spoken about how capital is not something. We've got other concerns and other things that we have to pay. So we have to look at things like the interest rates in South Africa. So all of those things that obviously would get advised when you go to the specialist in that field. But the practical things of like, okay, at varsity, I was not thinking of a house where I'm going to have 3 kids and a husband and. I'm thinking, okay, what makes sense right now is buying a 1-bedroom apartment or a 2-bedroom apartment so that when I start working, then I've got this, safety net. So we don't have the flexibility financially, to be of that thinking. So learning from you guys, maybe if we can just make it very practical in sense like, this is what you do. Find out first, this is what you can afford in terms of our home loans. And then going back to what Tato said, walk us through, hold our hand. Learning from you guys, of course, because you've got the experience.
I suppose still the conversation around affordability still comes into play, right? If you would place that conversation that way, because one, you want to look at are you going to be able to afford what you're looking at, and then 2, where is the property situated, and what's the value range of the properties around that property, and how are the properties around your property kept? Even if it's a sectional title, for instance, you're looking into buying an apartment in a flat. You want to look at where is that flat situated, what does it look like around, and how are the properties kept and maintained, because that all affects that sectional title. That little flat that you are then going to buy is going to be affected by the value of the properties next to yours. And an example that comes into mind, I remember We used to rent at a flat a couple of years back in Campton Park, and there was this gentleman that had one flat that he then renovated, and he really invested quite a lot into that flat, right? And I remember walking into his flat one of the days, and I thought to myself, snap, man, this guy has really, done and messed himself, because there is no way that he's going to be able to sell that property, that little sectional title, for the intrinsic value that it now holds after all the alterations that he has done to that place, right? And that is just an example of how much then do you maybe, for instance, invest in a property that you have now acquired in relation to what you're seeing around you. So all those small things come into play. You can, for instance, get an inspector to come and inspect the property, give you a proper report of what it would cost you to, for instance, maybe fix the place if it's not really up to par, and all that. So you have to really get your homework done properly from that end, and from the monetary perspective as well, affordability as well, yeah.
And the valuations again.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's bringing the property valuators.
Yeah.
So then over to you, Jabulile, about the real estate aspect. How do you then choose like the right person, not a scammer?
How do you choose the right agent?
A right real estate agent, not somebody who's going to be like,
You're going to be like, I mean, you definitely need to do your research, do online. A lot of people, a lot of agents now, well, everyone's on social media now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can sort of see their track record, but you can also opt for their Fidelity Fund certificate, and you can check that with the PPRE. So yeah, just to make sure that you're working with the right person. But also, I think trust your intuitions. The person needs to understand and gel with you, and you must ask as many questions as possible.
Absolutely.
You're buying a house, you're not buying a shoe. So anything that you want to ask, there's no ridiculous questions. I think also a very important thing is that obviously with property, everything needs to be in writing, especially if you don't, because if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. So you just need to obviously, it's doing your homework thoroughly.
Oh no, I just wanted to add also a bit about affordability, because it's not only about the home loan itself to Nedbank. Right? There's also other factors, rates, taxes, levies.
Yeah.
I was going to ask about the tax implications.
Yeah, because you can afford to pay 10,000 to the bank, but then the levies in that area, it's a complex, the rates and the electricity, the water. That you also
Don't
have
talk
to
about
factor
electricity.
in. Yeah, so that you also have to factor in, especially when you look at affordability as a whole.
Yeah.
So that's also something that I help you with, and obviously with the help of Jabulile's info, because on their sites, when they advertise the house, they show you the
we
rates,
do
the
put a
taxes.
calculator there.
Yeah.
But also as a rule of thumb, we just sort of just quick, if you, it should, ideally your bond repayment should be a third of your salary,
Yeah.
So if you're on a salary of 30K, this is gross, you ideally can afford a property for about 900,000, so that's how we sort of work it out.
So it's not the dream property, it's the...
The important thing is starting. The important thing is definitely starting, because this property that you start with is going to get you to your dream property. That's the only way.
Okay.
You don't just jump
I
from
want
here.
us to walk, yes. I want us
You don't
to
just
walk.
jump here. I'll make an
Yes.
example with myself. When I started, I bought a property for, I was lucky enough, ideally you should have a 10% deposit, but I was lucky enough that my parents did sort of give me a 10%, and then I bought on a new development, and then I stayed there for about a year. And then I was able to sort of upgrade onto the next property. The next property I bought, was maybe 500,000 more.
Okay.
And I put some more money into it, also fixed it up, and then so it's a process.
I mean, as we're chatting about first-time buying, right? From what I've read, there are higher benefits or higher advances where you almost assisted. What is the offering in that, and the privileges that you can get, the assistance that you spoke at, you had your 10%, but there's things that, where you're okay, if it's your first property, then with Nedbank, you get this, and you don't have to pay transfer fees, transfer duties, and things like that. So maybe also if you can just, throw those in,
Yeah, so mainly it's, I think, first one, it would be a 50% attorney discount, which most people don't get.
Oh, nice.
And also, depending on obviously your salary bracket, if you're falling short in terms of maybe 5% or 10%, say now affordability is a bit tight, but only we can look into things like FLISP. We work with them for
Yes.
first-time home buyers.
Awesome.
Obviously, you have to meet all the qualifying criteria, and then they can be able to assist you with mainly, sometimes it's 5% or 10% of the actual property that you're purchasing. And things like initiation fees, we can add them onto the loan as well. As like I mentioned, 105%, that's 105% loan to the value of the property. So sometimes when buyers don't have costs, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And we would, obviously, with that 5%, you can be able to give it to the attorneys and then pay them over a certain period of time, instead of just losing the property altogether.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before, guys, please keep your questions so that you're going to be able to ask them direct questions, as well as our guests online. Please keep your questions. And I would like to also now, talking about that, so would you then advise that you spoke about a new development and maybe an old house. So what's better? So with the new developments, they'll always put like no transfer duties, this off, this off, this off. And then there's a house that you flip, you renovate. What would you, for a first-time buyer, would you say work towards the new development, or get a house and flip it?
I would definitely say new development. You know what I mean? Because that's obviously you're avoiding those that transfer duty.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because it's VAT registered, so that's paid by the developer. So already, I think what you need is your 10% deposit. You know what I mean? So I think I definitely advise like a new development.
Bashileli?
I think that's a fair submission. I mean, like, look, in all fairness, when you're starting off, I think it's always advisable to take baby steps and almost then map out your journey from there on, right? And I remember I was just watching this one older gentleman just recently, and he was also talking about just the power of being able to use your power of one, especially as a young professional. Naturally, the expectation is that at some point you will probably meet a partner or somebody, a spouse, and become, an item, and Tato is going to look at you as a single individual when the two of you approach him.
Yes.
But it would make sense for both of you individually to at least have a property each once coming into that union. Then at least you still have the buying power as
100%.
a couple. You know what I'm saying? Then technically it almost puts you steps ahead. So I think those are some of the things to look at. But totally agree with you. I think maybe new development and start off small.
But also, if you're buying under $1 million, the costs are not there. So then it's fine.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, the transfer duty.
And then maybe
Transfer duty, you still got transfer costs.
please explain.
Do you want to?
And it's because you see it, and they are building a new. The first thing you see, no transfer duty. So transfer
So
duty.
the reason
and
you
then
don't pay
it's
transfer duty is because the developers are usually, they pay VAT. They VAT registered.
Okay.
So that's why you wouldn't pay. But
Yeah.
properties that are under $1 million, you don't have to pay transfer duty. But the transfer and registration costs, so you pay the attorneys that are going to transfer the property from.
Yeah.
And then we get the 50% from off.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but it will obviously depend. Some attorneys, they note for that, and
Okay.
sometimes some attorneys, especially new developments, they don't charge you, like you say, when they say no transfer duties,
Okay.
no registration duties. Yeah, and like Chabu said, under 901.
901.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing more.
The word red.
Nothing more.
That is very important.
Nothing more, guys.
If you buy for
If there's one thing we
902,
remember
they're
from
gonna
today,
charge you.
don't get to
It's
901 and 2 cents.
They charge you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they charge you, and unfortunately.
So you spoke about the VAT as well. So what are the tax implications in buying your first property? Like, does it obviously it
It's pretty
differs?
much transfer duty. So
It's
it
just
goes
that.
on a sliding scale. Do you want to elaborate? on
Yeah, no, it's basically for young professionals. There isn't much, but for investors, obviously with a certain appetite,
Okay.
because the real implications, they kick in after 5 million.
Yeah, the higher it goes,
Yeah, so after 5 million, that's where you actually
It's
are
real.
going to be taxed.
the
Yeah.
big money.
Yeah.
So there's another. So there's also the homeowners association. So
Yeah.
like even that, maybe please expand.
So when you buy
So
into a
buying
property,
and-
let's say if
yeah.
you're buying into an estate, you automatically, it's obviously governed by a homeowner association.
Yes.
You automatically become part of as an owner of the homeowner association, and then there's obviously rules and regulations that
you have to abide
yeah,
by,
that you have to adhere to. And I mean, there's things like levies and fines that can be imposed if you don't. So you just have to consider, if that's something that you want to do, as opposed to if you're in a freestanding home, all those things don't apply. It's your home, so you can do what you want.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
That's the
the
difference.
additional costs are there, whether you like it or not. I think it's always fair to try and provision for that, right? And I know we're in a crappy situation as a country with the load shedding, but you can look forward to paying less for electricity.
There's water shedding, there's load shedding,
shedding,
there's
everything.
shedding.
Who pay less for electricity because you don't have it.
Yes. So I think, again, maybe like to circle back to how I started, where if you're a first-time property, so you're a buyer, so I mean, I would have loved to be at home and be like, hey, I'm working and still having the benefit of not paying rent at home, right?
Yeah.
Then I buy my first property because there's things like Airbnb now and you rent it out and all those things. So even with that process, what should a first property buyer look at when they are buying their potential homes or even a house? Because homes is essentially says that you're going to live there, but a house is something you're going to use to then obviously get income from that, and then the bond pays itself. So I always hear that sometimes, like, okay, buy a property and then the rent pays itself or the bond pays itself. So, again, it's dependent on the area that you buy it in, because then you can, if you're wanting to rent it to young people, even there's some certain estates where you can see that this is just for young people. So if the affordability is also not there for them, so I mean, even when you're thinking, I would love to go back home and be like, hey guys, listen, things are bad in the country, we all get it, we should be together as a family. But they don't know that I've got,
But really, I think that was a very important point that you mentioned. I can't stop impressing that, because we've been staying with my younger sister, and one of the biggest things
Is
that
she here?
No, she's not here. She's not here.
What a smart girl.
Yeah, and you know what? I've always said to her, like, look, you shouldn't be in a hurry to leave. You're privileged to be in this position, because some of us didn't have that opportunity to be able to actually be under somebody else's roof and still have an income that allows you to actually acquire your own property.
Absolutely.
I think if you do have that option. As a young person, really, I think just grab it.
Stay home, guys.
No, don't allow anyone to judge you.
Stay home as long as you need to.
Exactly. You don't need to have a difficult story to make you look
Even
good.
if you can acquire a property while you're staying at home and perhaps rent it out while you're staying at home.
Exactly.
That is
Your parents will never
the
kick you
best.
out. Yeah, so we're going to give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. Is there anything that you would actually want that I haven't asked that you would like to actually share with first-time buyers?
I guess not on my end at this point. I think let's just rather.
I want to hear about the farming later, but we'll do that when we need to, guys.
Let's hear what they want.
Yes. Can we have the mic? I think so. Tato, maybe this is going to you again. How do I make an offer on a house?
you speak to Chabu.
How?
No, but yeah, because remember, Chabu is actually the middleman between you and the bank.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so Chabu, when you go to Chabu will help you identify the defects in the property before you put up an offer for a house that is not worth that much. And in most cases, what also first-time home buyers need to look out for is being ripped off by sellers.
Yes.
Yeah, you find that the property they listed for 12 million, you get there, it's worth like 5.6.
So would you say like get a second evaluation, or a second opinion?
It's always best before you put an offer, have like 3-4 set of eyes to look at that property with you. Even professionals, even uncles that have been around for some time to tell you, hey, Mtanami, no. Look at the mold, look at the roof.
And from my legal background, footstoots.
Yeah.
So when you're buying a property with footstoots, I mean, it's just got a low creak.
Yeah, that's Javu's
It's
the
been
one that
lived
will
in,
change
but it's
it.
been lived in.
Every 6 months we are fixing the ceiling.
No, it's definitely good. You must check, like you must do your checks and see the damping and check all those things. But another thing that they've also brought in the act is that there's now an immovable property condition report where it wasn't before, where we actually go through with the seller and they say if there's any defects, if it's leaking, if the keys is leaking. So, and then they put it in writing. So when you go and you find something, after you bought the property, you move in, you can still go back, obviously, if they weren't being honest.
So as we're talking about the new act, so like what are the legal rights and obligations that a first-time buyer has in South Africa? Like,
I mean, you've got the right to have the right representation. They mustn't be biased in terms of, your race, your age, anything. And you must ask for the paperwork. You must ask for everything. Must be written down, and you must ask for copies.
Certificates of
to make sure. Yeah, I definitely say everything in writing, because if it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. Like this game, everything needs to be in writing.
Okay, awesome.
No, I'm just also. I'm just also amazed at the information that I'm hearing here. But
yes, but I mean, you also spoke about the option of buying a property. I mean, this property is quite big.
Yeah.
And there's a cottage that you're renting.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
I mean, maybe that goes to that as well. I mean, that also, can you expand in that aspect? Like you are living in the property,
Yes.
but then you're renting out
Then you
another
partially
part
rent
of
it
your
out. Yeah. I mean, like it's if you think of it, for me, it's always. Maybe it's just I'm just wired towards anything that will bring in money. So, in as much as obviously you have the benefit of utilizing the property, but in my mind there has to be something that's coming in. Yeah, but I guess then obviously the idea is to obviously re-inject that rental income into that very same bond, right? Which helps you to at least pay it up a little bit much more quicker and push that debt a little bit further up, so that if you really want to do that re-advance as well, then you have a little bit more to get out. Or with some people, they would then have it as an additional income, which I would not advise, especially if you're a young person. I think we all have a limited amount of time to try and build wealth, unless, of course, if you come from a wealthy background, then that's not a problem. But if you are like most of the young people that I know, you're still staggering trying to find your feet. So you want to try and maximize on the little that you get and see how much you can stretch it and increase it. I think that's the whole idea of investment itself, right? Is to try and then see how much you can reproduce from whatever you
and maybe
getting
also
in.
just elaborate. So I mean, I'm reading from your intro.
Yes.
I understand the
Yeah.
cars, they depreciate, property appreciates. I mean that. So obviously we understand, and we've been actually told that property, it's better to buy a property before you buy a car and things like that. So appreciates in the sense that you are actually using it as to gain an income, or living in it. I mean, you spoke about, like, I mean, if I've lived in it, is it still going to be the value?
Yeah, that's the thing. If you're living in it, the trick and the plan, the logical thing is to maintain, right? Because if you're not maintaining it, then obviously that's a different conversation. So you need to make sure that that property is well maintained. And again, going back to the example that I gave earlier on. Be very cognizant of the area that you are in. Be cognizant of the price range of the properties around you. Don't go and overinvest in a property that you won't be able to then recoup on if it's an investment-related venture that you're engaging in. Always make sure that it makes business sense in that regard. But if it's your normal residential home as well, maintain it. Just make sure that the gutters are fine and everything is well and fine. And I guess maybe that's the other advantage of finding yourself in controlled environments, right, where you now buy a property that is not necessarily freestanding, right?
Yes.
Because then those areas are a little bit much more controlled. You won't find the next house just struggling to
The wall
to
could,
keep up. Right?
the wall could just collapse.
Yeah, because the body corp is going to weigh in heavy
Yes,
on that
yes.
particular individual, and they have to make sure that the upkeep of the house is at par, and that protects your property. But if you find yourself in some areas, I remember one time we were looking for a property and we drove down to, what's the name of it? So there was an area just further close to Batchekers area, Knockham Park, further down that side, and there were a lot of nice properties when you're driving from one side of that town, but when you go further down towards the railway line, the properties started changing.
Oh.
And they were very bad, such that, for instance, we had not driven all around. We would
Okay.
not have seen what we saw at the far end of of that area, right? And that's some of the things that you may then encounter. I'm so sorry with the sound.
Mike shading.
Yeah,
away.
but there's some of the things that you may find yourself encountering. So it's very important. Check the area, and if you can as well, get into a place that is controlled, at least where there's a body corporate that can assist you.
But also just
Thank
on
you so
that,
much.
so before I put it to the floor, how important it is to check the developments of the area. So for instance, look at fourways. I mean, I've heard there's a Gautrain train coming. I don't know when. Do you get what I'm saying? So all of those things, and again, it drives traffic into certain areas and all of that. So how important it is to also to check and what's the measure? Is it 5 years or 10 years? What are the plans for that area? And do we speak to you to know what is happening in the next 5 years in that specific area? Or
I think you have to do your research. I mean, it's good to know those things because, like he's saying, like how long are you going to live in the area? You need to look at things like that. I also just wanted to add in terms of like the maintenance. Maintenance is obviously very important, and then you also get like renovations where people try to renovate their house and do all sorts of things.
They've got a
But
triple
I'm
story
saying,
and
even if when you think about renovations, like you need to think long term. Like when you try to renovate the house and you renovate it for me specifically, then I want to sell it to a family in 5 years. You know what I'm saying? It becomes so difficult because I've made it so specific. I've changed bathrooms, I've changed this. So you must think about those things. And
There's a
also, like you said,
velvet
don't overcapitalize because if you're putting, look at what like. Ideally, when you're getting into the market, there's obviously like the highest sale, the lowest sale. You want to be
and
somewhere
an
comfortable.
inverter is also, guys should throw that in there, like part of the property. Like no
I
property
know, that's
should
another
come
thing now, that's
without
like,
an inverter.
Yeah. But just to add on that, renovation side of things, so especially also even in investing in a freestanding property with outside dwellings and all of that, please make sure you get a reputable contractor.
And you get reputable people
Do
also
not
to do the
get
work.
fly-by-nights or you redo your bathroom, then there's a plug.
I'm very
next to the
stressed right
tap.
now.
Plans,
You
like
understand?
plans,
When
get
we
the plans
there,
updated.
we will definitely
'Cause
decline the loan.
And
But
the
also,
bank requests
Tato, me,
the
I'm very
plans.
stressed right now because we had an AGM for my estate. There's 24 units, and the load shedding is really affecting me.
Yeah.
I have my inverter, when it reaches stage 4, collapsed. It can't. And then I can't put solar because of the waterproofing. And I'm like, nobody told me this at the beginning, that there's waterproofing issues. Do you get what I'm saying? We've got enough sun in Johannesburg to give us electricity.
Solar, yeah.
So those are the type of things, again, okay, we know you, the middleman. Which other people besides Tato and you and the valuators, property valuators, should we then also put in this team of deciding on the property?
No, but when you're buying, you can even, if there's something that you're uncomfortable with in terms of like the damping or the what, you can actually call a specialist. You come with me, you're like, no, I'd actually want my person to come so you get it, because I'm obviously not a plumber, I'm not a, so if there's something that you feel like, okay, I'm actually still not comfortable with this, can we go back to the property? You bring your specialist, and then, just to make yourself more comfortable. So things like that are fine.
So you're a difficult client. Difficult client. The seller won't look at you that way.
No, they won't. It's a house you're buying. You're going to live in this house. So, like, you know what I mean? You're allowed to do all the due diligence that you need to do.
Do you hear, guys? So even if you come in and just, this crack, how long will it fix? And how long does it stay fixed? That's the questions that you should ask,
you can ask those questions. But as I was saying, the house has been lived in, guys. You also can, it's been lived in, so it's going to have some wear and tear. The house won't be perfect. That's the footstoots that we're talking about. Yes, that's the footstoots that we're talking about.
Cool.
Yeah, but so
Apologies, Tato. Do you need the mic?
Do you need? Oh, okay. That's fine.
So, Gwen, you're going to pass on the mic. Oh, are you asking a question?
Questions?
Yes, I've got a few questions from people online.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect.
So the first question is from Andy, and he says, who covers the cost of the transfer duties, buyer or seller?
Buyer.
Buyer.
Buyer. The buyer.
I've got a few.
Okay.
No, you go ahead.
Refueler wants to know, is a deposit or down payment a requirement for buying property? How does it help with the bond payment?
Okay, so in most cases, depending on your terms of business scoring, because there is a particular score that we look at when you apply. You might not even need a deposit. But if you do put a deposit, in most cases, you will be able to access that for things like further loans and as well as re-advances. Because remember, the deposit, it's not like you're not going to get it. It will be part of the bond. So if you obviously come to Nedbank, download your money app, load
Hint,
your bond,
nudge, nudge.
you'll be able to transfer it and access the money from there.
So the next question is from Jay, and he wants to know, since SA is experiencing such high inflation rate, would you suggest young professionals to buy into new property development or estates or standalone houses, and what benefits would they get?
Okay, so standalone, sectional title, interest rate-wise, there's really not much difference. Because remember, it's the value of the property and what you're paying back.
Yeah.
So if a young professional wants to invest, I would say go to a standalone. Because sectional titles, they don't, appreciate quicker. So if you go to a standalone, most probably you're going to renovate it. In 2 years' time, you will see the money that you put in the property.
But you're saying it must be an investment property.
Yeah,
and
if they want to invest. But if
Okay.
they want to stay in that property, I'd say sectional title, security, you name them. And obviously if affordability is there. Because, given the fact that, standalone, depending on the area as well. But with the sectional title, you guarantee peace of mind. As soon as you drive through the boom gate, you go sleep peacefully,
I'm so sorry, Tata. I'm so sorry. Would you then advise fixed rate and non-fixed?
Okay, so fixed rate and non-fixed rate.
Yeah.
At the current state, all right, with the inflation happening, we just experienced a hike of 50 bips just now.
Just now.
When I was driving here, I actually bought it here.
Just now.
So I would say wait for it to calm down a bit before you fix it.
Yeah.
But even when you fix it, we will recalculate it, and obviously it won't be, say for instance, it goes down to 8%, right, or maybe 9%. When you fix it, we're going to recalculate it for you, but it won't be as steep as it is now. So yes, buy now. Don't buy. So I'm not saying don't stop buying. You can buy property. Obviously, look, when the interest rate comes down, you're going to feel it in your pocket, and then you're going to fix the rate, and then you'll be a happy person to obviously own property.
And while you're on that, so maybe in layman's terms, a buyer's market, sometimes it's like, this is the right time to buy.
Yeah,
This is the right time to sell. What is that speaking to inflation as well?
Yeah, it's actually tough. I've had a few meetings actually in the week. I visited one estate agency of mine in Kempton Park, Remax Dazzle. I was saddened to hear that they had to let go of 30 agents.
Oh.
Because there isn't any business. So right now, as things are,
It's a buyer's market.
It's really, I'd say 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say 50-50 because people are buying and some are retaining. So
Okay.
Okay, I think this is for Jabu and for Matlu. If you've rented out your first property, how do you handle a tenant that doesn't pay their rent in time or at all? This is from Priya.
I'm going to go for this.
Come to me, I will draft for you.
Oh God.
Tell us.
Yeah, I suppose it's no different from a properly functional business, right?
Mashelela, we do not want the kasha.
Yeah,
We
she mentioned that if it's not on paper, it's non-existent. You know what I'm
Yes.
saying? So for me, I mean, like everything is contractual one, and then upfront you have a deposit that the person pays, just like any other place that you rent, right? So at least I do know that, given I have at least a month's, rent in my hand. You know what I'm saying? So the first time you default, that's the end, that's it. But at least I do have something in hand that,
So if they default
that
the
would
second
cover it.
month, now you've got
No,
the
you
one
don't wait the second month.
You sort of like
You wait for the
the
second month, then
normal
you
process
then
is
talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even though you have the deposit,
Yeah,
still behave as if you don't have a deposit.
exactly.
So
yeah.
to apply pressure.
Yeah.
Okay, got
Yeah,
you.
but if there's a breach of contract, then that's it. You know what I'm saying? It's normal business, unless of course if it's a
There's also-
it's a family member or a relative, and you wanna be kind. Yeah, but that's the thing.
That's
That's
true.
business.
Okay, the next question is from Refilwe again. Would you say it's cheaper to build a house than buy one?
Oof.
I would say, I don't know. I don't think so, because building, everyone thinks if you haven't done it and you haven't experienced it, like it usually goes over costs over time, especially if you're in, I wouldn't say the first time, don't start with building, that's a big risk. It does need a bit of experience, because there's so many things that go into building a property, and you really need to know what you're doing, and you need to work with experienced, contractors. Even contractors can, do you dirty. So
And I feel like as a woman, you need to have a spouse.
you need to know what's going on. You know what I mean?
I don't
You need
know.
to have something that you'll send around.
No, someone that will know that, okay,
we've got
this
cases
brick, this type of brick is 2 rand more than, do you get what I'm saying?
Oh,
So
God.
I'm going to
There's
look at
cases where people
aesthetics.
start building and then they don't finish. They leave the house half because
yes.
they run out of
Oh,
funds.
yes.
So
That's
I'm
true,
saying
that's true, yeah.
That's
Exactly.
all things.
So you need that
you need
reality check.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah. I'd suggest you have a bit of experience before building.
Okay, not a spouse, but you can speak to Tato.
No, actually, I think.
Are you also against?
No.
building?
Look, for some people, when you want to build, there's developers that do it for you. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Like a building package.
So you don't obviously use your own capital. They use the bank's
Okay.
capital, and then you're gonna come in as a first-time home buyer on a brand new house, but it's newly built.
Yeah.
So, but then if you want to build from your capital, that's where you need to take Chabu's advice.
Yeah, you can always buy
because-
off plan, which is
Yeah.
obviously they do the process for
They
you. You
do
just
for you.
oversee.
Yes.
Yeah, which is better.
That's much better.
Yeah.
That does not need a spouse.
Yeah, no, it doesn't need to fly-by-night people. You know, they deliver 10 cements, you leave the site, you come back, there's 3 cements.
Some people
they tell
start
you to
building
buy
without an
more and-
NHBRC certificate,
Yeah.
and then by the time you can't sell that house, you know how much money you need to spend to actually get a certificate when the house is already erect. So all those things
It's
are
a lot.
Yeah.
And then just as you chat, I'm from KZN, so I know building on the coast is much more expensive because of the maintenance aspect.
Also the land,
Yeah,
building
yeah.
on flat land is obviously easier. Sometimes with the land, you have
Yeah.
to spend more
On the
money
slope.
Yeah.
evening out the land. Those are extra costs. That's before you've even put the house down.
Yeah, so it's 20 years until the beach house.
That one, the one that you want. Let's just work towards it.
What salary bracket would you say is more favorable in getting a home loan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anything from 0 to 10K.
All
From
of us are
from
stressed.
0 to 10,000. Because why I say this, I was actually having a conversation with the guys earlier on, saying that I literally helped a clerk, right? She was earning, I think, about 7 net, and she literally got her first apartment at 450,000.
Oh, wow.
Understand? And with that 7,000, based on a pay slip and bank statements, you could see that she can be able to afford. I think this was like 2 years ago, so she could be able to afford repayments of, so if 450, you're looking at 4.9 to 5,000. And then from that 2,000, obviously we put a motivation in that she's going to be living with her mom, she will assist her with living expenses and so forth. So as long as affordability is there, I'd say, from 10,000 upwards, you can be able to own a home.
And maybe building on that, so how then with building your profile? So let's say I start off and this is I'm earning 10,000 in the first year of work, and then I've already said, okay, at some point the dream is to buy a property, and then I get an increase in the second year, and it's that can I then come to you and say, listen, the goal is to afford 1.5, 2-bedroom in this area, and then we start building that profile or portfolio with me.
Yeah, very much so. And
Nedbank
obviously-
offers you that, guys.
Yeah, we literally are on with me and my other colleagues. Like even on weekends, you can even WhatsApp me, or if you want us to have like a monthly plan, I can be able to engage you on a monthly plan to tell you that, remember, don't pay this, don't pay that, because, or don't go and spend your money here and there. Make sure that you close this next month. You told me you're getting your bonus, sort of like a financial coach. But
Love it.
obviously there are more equipped financial advisors in the house, but I also do that just to help a person to fulfill their dreams. Because obviously, remember, with home loans, our job is to make sure that people get properties to fulfill their dreams. Yeah.
The last question, how do you choose the right lawyers or attorneys for things related to transfers and costs?
Okay, so in most cases, a seller would choose their transferring attorneys. We as the bank, we nominate the registration attorneys. However, if the buyer's got a relationship with the set of attorneys and they would like to use them, if they are on our panel, we can be able to allocate the instruction to that particular attorney so that they can do everything for you. Because some attorneys, they do take forever to register bonds, and there's some attorneys that are quick. So it all depends on us as Nedbank. But primarily, we give you attorneys that are on our panel, attorneys that we trust. And in most cases, even the attorneys that come with estate agents, you find that they're also on our panel, and we've done our due diligence, and they are actually reputable. So, yeah. I think there's a question there.
I think there's some questions. That's the mic. We're trying to buy some property, okay?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, I think it's on now. Okay, so I've got 2 questions.
Please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Winnie. So I've got 2 questions. You might have answered the first one, but I don't think I am. So when it comes to, so you made a comment about, buying property within new developments, right? And at the same time looking at the area. So just again, maybe advice, if you're in Bryanston, for example, or in Fourways, and there's new developments, and the pricing is good, there's no transfer fees and things like that. How can you know, or where can you go to get information about how the value of it will increase in years' time, if you're doing it from an investment perspective? And then my second question is, with regards to from a business perspective, when it comes to property development. Is there anything that you can comment from Nedbank? What can you do for young professionals or a young entrepreneur from a property development perspective if one wants to venture into that? Thanks.
Okay. So, are you going to take the first one?
Do you want to take the first one?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay, in terms of the first, you said in terms of how do you identify which new development, like how much you're going to know? Like the truth of the matter is that you can never know exactly how much the property is gonna, appreciate. But like I said, you need to sort of do like your research in terms of like look at the area, look at the sales in the area, look at the properties next to that property. That kind of information can sort of give you. I mean, the pointers that we point instead of like you must look at like the location where those are the pointers instead of guiding you in terms of which areas to invest in. So you can never know 100%. I don't know if I've answered that question.
You have, but also, the simplest thing that you can do for yourself is drive around. When you identify the estate, just on a weekend, and also during the week, so that you can identify the traffic congestion. Do that research for yourself, so that you'll know then that if I'm turning left and going down the road, I saw something being developed. So whenever there's a new development around the estate that you're buying from, you must know that something will appreciate in terms of the monetary value to your property. You must always look out for that.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that Tato mentioned earlier on was the fact that with the sectional title, you may not necessarily see a lot of rapid growth in that sense as compared to a freestanding, right? But one thing that is given is that you definitely retain the value, right? It's a given. You retain your value, and you obviously appreciate in value, but it may not necessarily be as significant as maybe as compared to a freestanding property. Yeah.
So, yeah.
The second
one.
question?
Yeah.
We need
The
the
second one regarding property development. So what we do, this is now in the retail space, looking at probably if you want to develop maybe an existing stand, or if maybe you want to build. Obviously, we're going to look at what you want to use it for. We will ask you those questions. And obviously, it's for rental purposes, then it will move from my space to then the commercial space. But what we do for young professionals is that we give you an opportunity to, obviously, with all your documentation in order, we will definitely not chase you away. And obviously, we'll ask you to be primary banked with us. Obviously, that's a sweetener, obviously, to have you on board and obviously have your business. But we'll definitely make sure that you do get an offer if you want to develop or if you want to purchase a property. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, hi.
How many more questions? Ooh. We can take 3 questions, but the benefit of this evening that it doesn't end here. We're still going to get to interact with the relationship bankers as well as the panelists, where you can then ask them more informed questions. And then if you want to take a walk with Nedbank, we welcome that too, you know. So we'll take 3 questions before we say goodbye to our online guests as well. And we'll end it off there. And then we'll, in the networking sessions, if nothing was answered for you now, we can still answer it after the event. So 3 more questions. So 1, 2.
3 at the back there.
3. Okay, no, 3. You come as a unit now, next to each other. 3. Okay, we'll start 1, lady in the peach, and then the unit.
Lady, they're right in front of you.
Oh, I can start? Okay.
Okay, sure.
How's it? My name is Tamsanga.
Hello, Tamsanga.
So so my question is, I want to get a loan. Can I come with someone else and get a loan for a particular property? How do you look at that as Nedbank? And then also the confusion with the 105%, you still need a deposit, and so there is no need for deposit. And with deposits, is there like a sliding scale, like 20%, 30%, 10%? How does it work? Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to go to the first question. So in most cases, people do come with a brother, a sister, an uncle, a mother, or a spouse, you know.
He seemed disappointed.
No.
I think I like the fact that actually, in their question, I said they coming as a unit. It's almost like I knew what he was going to ask. So let's leave the spouse. But I come with a bestie, a friend, another person, a business partner, and I say, listen, there's an investment opportunity. How can we come, and is there a limit to how many people can come? Do you have to do a consortium of 3, a consortium of 10 for property? And
so there's no limit, but I always advise people to consider the legal implications of when the partnership starts and when the partnership dissolves.
Think with the end of mind. Think of divorce.
Yeah, so
Pretty much.
so you can come with a co-applicant. There can be as many as 10, depending that your profiles are clean and affordability is there for whatever that you want to do. We will look at the loan and we'll definitely grant it if there's obviously supporting documents.
Just to expand what he said, do you look at the purpose of, like if you come as a group of 5, do you look at the purpose of why we want the property or the loan? So either for, in granting the loan, do you look at the purpose of us coming as a group for the property?
It's it's a rare case whereby we'll interrogate the buyers to say,
Okay.
what do you want to do with this property? You know what I mean? But if affordability is there,
Okay.
we shouldn't ask. Because you want to turn it into a hotel, whatever, that's you. You know, that's your group. And obviously, like I said, the most important thing, it's the legal implications afterwards. Because for you guys, or for instance, for you to come out of that property to buy your own, now for you to have to prove affordability. And if you don't have, because remember, if you and your brother buy property, right, and you're helping him out, right, and now you meet Mr. So-and-so, Miss So-and-so, now you want to go buy with them. However, you're still tied to this property that you bought with your brother. And there's legal implications, meaning that there's Section 45 that needs to be done to remove your name from the property, and that's also money. So when you do a joint bond, you must just know that you're tied to that person for like the next 20 years.
You soon have a child.
That's a lot.
It's a long time.
It's a long time.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Zola. I'm a young professional. Yay!
Yay.
So I have quick succession of questions. One for Jabu, and one for the gentleman with the very not so easy name,
Mashuleli.
Mashuleli.
Yeah.
And one for Tato, but they're very quick, okay? So Jabu, as an estate agent and as a leader, do you advise your clients that from an ethical perspective, that it's better for a seller and a buyer to get two different agents, just so there's no conflict of interest, and so that you're sure, as an agent, are you representing the interest of the person who's selling the house, or are you representing the interest of the person who's buying? And if you get to a point where it conflicts, do you remove yourself? Nah? And then, Mahlileli, I wanna ask you, or maybe make a comment that says, when you advise people to go into property as a business rental, and because you mentioned that should they default 1 month, it's enough, but then there's eviction process for people who suddenly become unlawful occupiers, and that's such a ridiculous cost. I mean, it's ridiculous. So and people buy a poseg about, right? Because they're like, oh, hey, I can buy property, the rent is gonna pay for the property, but then you have a tenant who has no interest in paying, only pays the first month to fool you, and then they stick around for a whole year because eviction takes 2 years. Now you're paying home loan and they have electricity. And then, Tato, what I want to ask you is, the bank, right? When they give you this home loan, especially during COVID, when the interest rate was very low, why is it not forthcoming the information of fixing that rate, right? So, like, my banker told me after the repo rate started increasing that, oh, you should have fixed it when it was still low. And I think that's ridiculous that he even mentioned that, right? And then you should have just kept quiet. Yeah,
This is why it's important to have a conversation afterwards, right? I'm going to ask the same question after this.
And also with the interest rate as high as it is, are you getting properties returned, or are the banks selling people's properties? Are people becoming homeless? Like, I want to know where I'm going with this property that I have bought. Thank you.
Once I start, okay.
Yeah.
In terms of the buyer and the seller, I mean, in South Africa, there's not like a buyer's agent and a seller's agent. I mean, I'm representing both of them. I mean, my job is to provide synergy between the two clients. I mean, obviously the buyer wants to pay less, the seller wants to charge more. So I'm just there to provide synergy. I understand the process, from a legal point of view. So I'm just make sure that both parties, are fulfilling their sides, yeah.
And there's never interest, like a conflict of interest?
No, I mean, there's lots of issues. That's why I'm there. I'm there to sort out the problems. I'm there to be the middleman, to sort out the issues, to make sure that
To
the
be
deal...
objective.
That's my job, yeah.
And you're Zolani, right? Yes. This is a very fair question that you're asking, right? Because top of mind comes a friend that had a very similar situation that really got messy with the tenants and they refusing to move and that whole story. And she was really frustrated. And I remember asking whether she has to go to the police civil court. How does she handle it? But I think the short and really most valuable answer that I can maybe give you as the honest truth is it's better to outsource, right? Outsource a rental agency. Don't do it for yourself. You're just moving liability and then allow someone else to deal with it on your behalf. You just have to pay, obviously, which is not what most people want to do. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, the reason why we do it for ourselves is because we're trying to cut corners, but it's better to pay somebody else to deal with that for you.
And they have better experience. We're not going to be like Kashas here.
Yeah. That's true.
No like Kashas.
Cool stuff.
All right, so you asked me like 3 questions all in one. Okay, so first I'm going to start with fixing your rate. Unfortunately, it was on the quote that you accepted. So on the actual quotation, there is a clause that tells you that you are in a position to fix a rate. So had you not skipped that clause, you would have...
Read your T's and C's, read.
Because remember...
So basically, walk in with your magnifying glass.
Read the fine print.
Read the fine print, yeah.
Because remember, we are actually one of the major banks, so we're not out to rip people off. So,
don't know.
Yeah,
Guys, it comes in PDF. Just go search, fix rate, and
say
understand.
fix,
Yes.
Yeah.
And understand that thing that might concern you, you don't have to read the entire document. But the things that you actually want answers to, search if they're on the document. If they're not on the document, then you ask Tato and say,
call,
listen,
yeah.
I'm concerned that this is not covered here. Can you point me?
We start communication. We start communication from the inception of the application, you know, and then we walk you through whatever that you don't understand. Even if you want to sit with me on a phone call for 2 hours so that I can explain the same thing over and over again, legally, I need to do that.
Yes.
You understand? I can't just hang up and say, no, you get it? Okay, bye. No. Because tomorrow, what's going to happen, going to your next question, your house will be, you know, up for repo and whatnot. But unfortunately, we're not in the business of doing that. So in COVID times, we gave people a gap window period to be able to skip certain payments because we understand. You know what I mean? We don't want to repossess property now, you know? So that's how we played ball, obviously, given the COVID-19 situation in the country. Yeah.
So before we go into your question, I do have to say bye to our online viewers because time is not on our side in terms of our online viewers. Thank you so much for joining us. If you'd still like to send, you can send your questions through and they can be answered after the event. The questions will be sent to you guys and then Nedbank can populate it to the online viewers. Thank you for joining us. To the online viewers, you should have been here, but we understand. So we can carry on with the question.
Okay. So my name is Piwe.